Hey everyone, and welcome. We're on part one of season 3, episode 13 of Youth Empowerment Radio. I'm your host, Carmen, and today I get the pleasure of speaking with MJ, a cybersecurity expert and owner of the cybersecurity business called Tiny Gigantic. We talk about how MJ got into this work and dive into what agency and consent look like in the online world we live in, and how to take back your autonomy in those spaces. If you like what we do here at Youth Empowerment Radio, one of the best ways to show your support and your love is by telling a friend or family member about us. Thank you for your support. We hope you enjoyed part one of this conversation. All right, here we go. Maybe I'm June. I'm super stoked to have you here today with us, with me.
Hi, Carmen. Great to be here.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited to get into the conversation of cybersecurity. It's not something we've talked about on this podcast before. And I was actually reflecting on this. I don't feel like it's really talked about, which is kind of peculiar because we live in this heavily digitized world,
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm excited to have you on and kind of hear your thoughts, reflections, expertise, things like that.
Yeah, I think we sometimes hear about it like from in a really commercially corporate way when a big company has a data problem or a system problem. And every now and then, like I think like yeah, we'll hear. I get calls from family members sometimes that click on the wrong thing in an email. Stuff like that.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I think the conversation doesn't reach everybody for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I would love for folks to get a better sense of like who you are.
Yeah.
So maybe just like an introduction and what feels relevant and important to share, and then also how you kind of came into this work.
Yeah. So my name is Myung Jun, and I run a company called Tiny Gigantic. We do digital security work with activists, and what that really means is we spend a lot of time meeting people working in lots of different movements and get to know how they're using the internet in their work and what kinds of needs they have for privacy and confidentiality, what kinds of things are sensitive in their work, and try to help build some ways for them to have that communication as privately as they need to. And I got into this work. I think kind of like two paths brought me here. One was just following my own interests. I've kind of been a nerd from the start. When I was a kid, I used to like take things apart around the house and then put them back together. Some of them better than others. And I think that same drive to like figure out how things worked led me to be really interested when the internet came around. When I was still somewhat young, I was like in my teens, 20s when the internet was like really coming to us publicly. So I got really interested in how the internet worked and how websites worked and learned how to make those. And also I'm Korean. I was adopted to the US and I'm queer. And growing up in a family where my sibling is also Korean. And so growing up in a family where there were just two of us who were Korean trying to figure out what that meant. And then also me trying to figure out, or maybe just knowing that I had a lot of questions about who I was led me to find spaces where I felt really comfortable, and those tended to be community organizing spaces, places where other Koreans were, other Asians generally, other queer people, and then, every now and then magical unicorn spaces where it was like Korean queer people. And I would always do the like techie side of stuff because that's what I knew how to do, and I was really happy to do it. So I think finding a place where I felt happy and safe and comfortable, and then also like doing the thing that I was excited to do, that's kind of one of the paths. And then the other path was like there were other things I was interested in. I started off my career as a photojournalist, and and so I would go and like spend lots of time in places with people, like getting to know them and taking a lot of photographs. And in the course of spending time with people and getting to know them, they would get to know me too. And usually there would be a point where they would ask me like what other stuff I did, and when whenever I shared that I could make websites, I would get these questions if I like requests to help them make sites and stuff. This was like the
Mm-hmm.
early 2000s, and so
Okay.
a lot of people were setting up their own blogs and things. It was before like communally hosted like WordPress existed. It's
Mm-hmm.
certainly like way before like a Squarespace existed. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so also I was led by those questions. Like I realized that, or I was feeling like everyone should be able to take photos of their own lives. Like that was starting to feel really important to me, having had some experience coming in from the outside. And then but I really still wanted to work with people who are living in, political dissidents and activists and people living in as refugees places. And and people were asking for the skill that I had that was pretty unique at the time. So I decided
Mm-hmm.
to go towards that. And those site projects always ended up having like security questions involved. Like, can we make a site and can we make it so
Mm-hmm.
nobody knows who posted and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really interesting, I did, that's an interesting like thing to think about like in the early days and how it was like like it sounds like
Yeah.
you were the person at least in your community that was like more in the digital space, maybe knew more about it and kind of knew like the different ins and outs of it and things like
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. And so I would get a lot of questions. I really was like guided into digital security by questions. Like in
Yeah.
getting trained in building websites, nobody, like you were saying in the beginning also, like nobody really was like, oh, and also you're gonna have to think about people who like are not safe generally in where they are. So whatever they have to say online is also not gonna be safe for them. And like how are
Oh,
they
interesting.
we were
Mm-hmm.
just like thinking about how can you use the internet in fun ways.
Yeah, yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious. So, when you're talking about cybersecurity work, I mean, I even like prepping for this podcast, I feel like I'm still like, I couldn't even describe it to somebody. There's so many things. And then it's also like so big, but so small in a way. Cause I want to just say it's, oh, password security, or
Right.
like, like make sure that you like think about what you post before you post it kind of
Yeah.
thing. But I know from what you shared with me before, there's a lot more to it.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if you could kind of like synthesize it down to a couple of things.
I will try.
Yeah.
I think that you're hitting upon a thing that we have to start with all the time, which is digital security, cybersecurity isn't an act. It's a behavior and a process. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think so from that perspective, when we think about digital security for movement, cybersecurity, we're thinking about finding a state of where a group is using digital tools in support of its mission and vision, like maybe if you imagine like maybe an environmental justice group, like where they're using tools that are in alignment with their environmental justice values. Maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
tools that are using more renewable energy. Maybe it's tools that are just designed to shut off more and not be constantly running or something like this. So we're looking for ways that our digital tools are in alignment with our vision, because that means that it's helping us to bring about the future that we want to see and not
Mm-hmm.
working against us. That's pretty hard to achieve, but we strive for it. Another piece is that, especially in movement, that one of our greatest values is the people that we have, our relationships, and certainly we're doing what we're doing for in the service of people and people living better lives together on this planet. And so we want to look for ways of using digital tools that are supporting those relationships, taking care of the privacy needs and the safety needs that all of us have, knowing that nobody's in the same position. Everybody has different risks.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that it means to us is that people are using technologies in a way that they can manage incidents if they come up. So if
Mm-hmm.
something happens to somebody's account or somebody's tools, that they can pretty easily diagnose what's going on and keep going. So things are reliable, things are fixable. And then the third thing we think about is really agency.
Mm-hmm.
And this is more around like how individuals understand what we're doing online. And when we think
Mm-hmm.
about agency, we're basically thinking about like that we think that it's everybody's right to know to communicate to know who they're communicating with, um,
Mm-hmm.
to know how they're communicating with them, and what they're communicating and when. And that sounds really easy. Like if you think about us meeting for this conversation, like you and I know that we're talking to each other. We're talking about the cybersecurity, and we're using a video meeting platform. But we're also talking to that video meeting platform, and that's like in now time, and then in the future, there will be some sort of record of this meeting on that meeting platform. There's evidence of an event having taken place and lasting a certain amount of time. Our internet service providers and the networks we're on will also, there will be a little record there. So that's sort of we're looking to teach people about where did who we're talking to, how and when, where is that different than what we expect, and what kinds of behavior change do we need to make when we learn about those things.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it kind of sounds like the ethics or like the ethics of cybersecurity in a way. Like, because I'm hearing like four main things, like, and I tried to write them down, but like, making sure that the digital tools are in alignment with maybe a company's vision or a purpose or a person's vision, and then making sure that they're in service to people, so like stewards to the people that are using them, and then making sure that people are using that the tech that we use is like easeful and transparent. And then fourth, that agency understanding of who, what, when, where, why, where's it going, who's listening, do we know they're listening, are we okay with that?
Yeah,
Things like that. Yeah. Does that kind of like summarize that well?
Yeah, and I would say this is like an approach that specifically works well in the social justice sphere. I think like if you were to ask somebody in the military, what is cybersecurity to you? It would be like protecting state secrets. If you were to ask somebody at a corporation, what is cybersecurity to you? It might be like protecting our financial accounts and protecting our corporate secrets.
Gotcha.
Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's an interest. Honestly, I didn't realize you were going to go there, but I think that's because I would have gone to, protecting information, like, and so this gives me, I think, and hopefully listeners, a good kind of different perspective as to like some of the, the ethics or morals behind, the cybersecurity space.
Yeah, and I think it's more powerful to think about what we're trying to create. We're trying to create spaces where we can do the work that's meaningful to us, where we want to have meaningful experiences on the internet with people that we mean to have meaningful experiences with.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'd love to talk about, and I think a lot of our conversation will be around this, but agency and consent. So that last one that you mentioned, specifically in two spaces, the online space, and then we'll get into like systems of care. But I will just say this because I loved how you phrased it. You were talking about how when we think about consent, we oftentimes think about consent of our physical bodies, sex, medical decisions, different things like that. But we probably, or at least I don't think about really, online spaces or data and our digital lives. And so I'm curious, like, what does that mean? What does consent mean in the online spaces that we live in?
Yeah, and I should say that framing is direct. I was directly quoting from the Consentful Tech Project, which is
okay.
which is this awesome project that was really started in an activist media maker space, and is now a framework that they're trying to share with everybody, so that we all can start to think about applying consent to our digital lives as well. And I think in the same way that in our physical lives with consent, we're thinking about it's like freely and enthusiastically given. We're able to retract that at any time. We're able to make adjustments to it in the future. It's like if I give my consent to join somebody's piece of software, maybe like a social media site or something, then I want to, in a consentful arrangement, I'd be able to say, no, I changed my mind. I don't give consent here anymore. And I'd like to remove my information or something like this, maybe. And let's see. And in a digital space, usually like when we sign up for a tool, we're shown an agreement and asked, do we agree to this? And then everybody knows you kind of have to click OK in order to get to the next phase where you're using the tool. That thing is called a Terms of Service, TOS,
Okay.
or EULA, End User License Agreement. So sometimes you'll see those words like tossed around when you're reading the about this platform text. And with social media sites, the the purpose of those service agreements is largely to give the platform a whole lot of rights around your use, which is kind of like flips what it feels like is happening on its head, right? I kind of feel like when I'm shown one of those things, a tool is giving me access, like I'm going to get to use the features of this site. But for a lot of social media sites, like, have you ever heard the term or the phrase, if you're not paying for it, you're the product?
Yes. Yeah.
And do you, do you ever think about that when you sign up for free things?
Not really, no. I'm just like, oh, free thing. Like, that's great.
Right, it still feels free. Right.
Yeah.
And I think like so I think that's so with social media stuff, we're not paying for it, so we're the product. And what that means is when we sign those user agreements, we're signing up to use the features, but the tool is actually signing us up as its product.
Okay.
They're not selling us the use of software. Like, we don't have to pay, right? They make their money selling advertisements. And the way they make that money is by getting people to use their tool, watching the way people use those tools, making like guesses and profiles about us based on our characteristics and interests, and then selling to letting advertisers really bid on the eyeballs of people who meet certain characteristics. Does that make sense?
I think so. So you're saying that it's the agree button that you click is not only features, like you can use this, you can use this, you can use that, but more importantly, it's kind of what's happening on the back end, right? So like, and how maybe your data is stored, it sounds like, or who it's being sold to, or other things, which I'd love to touch on who it's being sold to.
Yeah.
Because I don't really understand how. I think I may be being too literal in my mind. Like, I'm just like, I don't understand how that could work.
Yeah. No, it's okay. Nobody did. Here's the fun thing about this is that nobody knew how this was going to work when these social media sites started.
Okay.
Like, I think like one of the really interesting things is that Facebook operated at a loss for years and years. And they only made money through venture capital. So that's like when people invest money in with the idea that one day this company is going to make a bunch of money and they're going to get back their investment plus.
Okay.
But social media sites didn't start making money, and Facebook didn't start making money until it started selling targeted ads. So like, what's a targeted ad? They show up in your social media feeds right now. If you see an ad in your social media feed, that's a targeted ad. That space is like, you can imagine that like your social media feed has like space for billboards on it or something, and those are like the ad spaces. And advertising companies want to buy billboard space in front of you if they think you're more likely to buy their stuff. So if a social media site sees that I am like constantly looking at like cat stuff, then they're going to say, oh, this person's a cat lover. And then they put my billboard space up for auction to advertisers who bid for the right to have, or bid for the opportunity to put their ads in front of cat lovers.
Oh, okay. So this is like, let's use Meta as an example.
Yeah.
So like Meta is seeing that you're looking at a lot of cats, and then they store that somewhere, and they're like, this person loves cats. And then is it like just that person itself, or is it like a group of people? Is it like these 100,000 people love to look at cats? Here you cat advertisement people. whoever bids the most dollars, gets your cat ad, your thing on. Okay, so that's kind of how that works.
That's kind of how that works. It's
Okay.
definitely not like one by one. So you like if an advertiser is bidding for that billboard in front of your eyes, they're getting a package deal. They're getting like a bunch of people who love cats. And then it's the reason why one of the reasons we think of these companies as big data companies is that they are continuously trying to come up with models about who we are based on what we do that are they can claim are more and more refined for advertisers. So there really wouldn't ever be like this person's a cat lover. It would be like this person's a cat lover who also loves the World Cup, who likely lives in a city, who is a liberal voter. Like they'll try to give more and more characteristics to bid on, like because that becomes more valuable for an advertiser who's going to guess, oh, that person's more and more likely based on all these characteristics to buy.
Oh, I see. I see.
There's a world in which we think of all these sites like Meta's work as like social media, but they're also ad exchanges. Like that's also technically the kind of company they are. Which I think is wild. Like we never hear, let's sign on to our ad exchange platform and watch a video, right?
Okay.
But like that's their business model is to be an ad exchange.
Okay.
And there are only 5 advertising companies, really big ones that move advertisements around the internet. So actually these targeted ads aren't just on social media. They also show up like if you're going to shop for something, sometimes there's like an ad block on the sidebar or something like this, advertising something to you that you probably looked at yesterday. Like that's also a targeted ad. Let's see what else. Targeted ads show up at the beginning of like YouTube videos or in the middle of videos that you're watching, and all that stuff. All those ads are often linked to the same 5 advertising companies. So your profile is kind of following you around, and you are becoming this kind of like data profile that gets sold to advertisers that crosses multiple sites. It doesn't that identity like kind of just builds up over time and across the internet.
This reminds me of this question I was going to ask later, but I feel like it might fit in really well here. And it was around like I talk to young people. I talk to many people that use social media, and one of the reasons that they use it is because they find people that are like them, right? And they can express who they really are. And that's actually one of the biggest benefits that I hear, especially from young people. And then it gets me to start thinking about like these targeted ads, these different algorithms, right? And how like on like the surface, it seems like our experience is our experience and it's our own, right? But then on the back end, it seems like there's like, is it really our experience? How much are we getting shaped to kind of see things or feel things? Like to kind of add to this point, I was recently listening to, I can't remember what podcast, it was like a tech podcast, and they were talking about like the prompt, I guess you could say, that they give these algorithms is increase user engagement. And kind of do that by all means possible, right? And oftentimes the way to get people engaged is through quote unquote rage bait.
Absolutely.
Like just this, like flood them with a bunch of things that they hate, and that'll keep them on longer. And like, I feel like this is a very long question, but I would just love your thoughts on that, on any of the pieces I mentioned.
Yeah. Well, first of all, your experience is your experience for sure, and the value that we derive from our interactions with each other is still valuable to us, for sure. I would say like we're always in a context that's being somewhat managed by something else, and we know this, like it might just be that we're in public space and we're feeling kind of like our behavior is kind of modified by whatever the social norms are around us or something like that.
Yeah.
But on these platforms, they're doing it to make money, which is super insidious, I think, because it really, like, I think that really it really disrespects the value to me. If I'm in a place and I'm having a really valuable interaction, meeting people that I never thought I could meet, that it make me like I was saying in the very beginning, like finding places where I feel safe and like myself. Like
Yeah.
if I'm having that experience and the place where I'm having it is trying to like harvest me for my data profile, that just is a real mismatch in values to me
Yeah.
that I think that really eats away at the idea of like agency to me is like and autonomy and also kind of vision on a personal level is like, you know, if my personal hope for my life is that I have great relationships with people that are valuable and meaningful, even, you know, whether stay in touch with them or not, or whether it's like just that I learn something about them and it impacts me. Like I don't want to do that for somebody else's monetary gain. That doesn't necessarily that's not
Yeah.
in alignment. So let's see, but what else? The oh yeah, right. The thing about the rage baiting. OMG, Carmen.
Yeah.
It's so true. But
I know.
that has been true from nearly the beginning. Like I
Yeah,
think
I
like
believe
these
it.
sites like watching us behave, notice that
Yeah.
like we'll go towards stuff we super love and we'll go towards stuff we super hate. Because we'll be
Mm-hmm.
like, OMG, I can't believe they just said that. And then you'll click on it and you'll like rage read it and then it'll link you to other stuff that looks like it.
Yeah.
And similarly, if I see something that I love and I want to go towards it and like just get some sort of like confirmation bias support for my my daily feelings, like maybe I'll click on something I already love. And so it
Mm-hmm.
ends up. This is like one of the reasons why some people assess that we're in such a deeply polarized moment socially and politically. Is
Mm-hmm.
one of the reasons is that we're all so many people are getting their information online through these kinds of feeds that are
Mm-hmm.
now showing many people just the polarized opposite views in that they would tend towards going towards. So a lot of people have, and it's almost like everybody has their own personal little internet right now where it's just their curated feed, run
Mm-hmm.
by a certain small number of companies that are feeding us specific types of information. So
Mm-hmm.
even if many people are posting to it, they're like, yeah, pushing us the stuff we love and the stuff we hate.
Yeah.
So people are in a lot of people are in this position of feeling like, oh, the world is made up of people who love the things that I love, or
Mm-hmm.
hate the things that I hate, and only love things that I hate.
Mm-hmm.
Like so it's sort of so that is one of the ways to sort of read what some of what's going on in society, like across the board, and
Mm-hmm.
some of that is based on what the companies, like how the algorithms are made, and some of it is people playing the algorithms. And so
Mm-hmm.
you might hear about the way that people get like sucked in over YouTube. Like I think people talk a lot about this in the manosphere, where like there is a way that the YouTube algorithm will sort of lead you, if you start to look for like men's rights stuff, it'll like lead you deeper and deeper into like more sort of aggressive and militaristic men's rights stuff, and it kind of inculcates people into a certain belief system, and
Mm-hmm.
boxes out other ones. I think is probably one of the more problematic ones.
Mm-hmm.
Is it stops showing you other things and it wouldn't ever you wouldn't ever be prompted to be shown something that would challenge you and make you think and pause, because what they want you
Right.
to do is like just stay on, just keep
Mm-hmm.
going. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I
Yeah.
think, you know, that's really problematic for us in terms of our autonomous thought. Like, I think it, yeah, it, sometimes it like, I think it almost like, well, I think it kind of like shows how we are on this trajectory now into AI.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like that's a really, I mean, I actually, would you be open to briefly just touching on that? I know we didn't kind of
Yeah.
uh include it, but just I think what I'm most curious about is I find even myself and others putting stuff into AI that I never would have put into Google.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
And then like sometimes personal stuff, like,
Yeah.
if I'm having like in a little like a dilemma and I just need like a third opinion or whatever,
Yeah.
and I kind of like quote unquote treating it as like a friend or like a friend that gives sort of good advice. And then I think about it and I'm like, I don't know if I should be doing this, not just like because it's just sort of bizarre, but then also like, also I'm like, where is this going? Because I'm like, delete conversation. And I guess this gets into the whole what happens when you delete things question I was going to ask. But like, and then I'm like, I don't know if this is actually, maybe it's being deleted. I don't really know.
Yeah. Let's see. There's the what we know right now about AI, and there's the what we're gonna find out. And there's like, you're totally right to ask these questions. I think it's all kind of like built on the same logic, where actually AI is just built on watching humans and then making machines that sort of mimic us, right? So it's like AI is like watching the way that we write emails. Like a Gmail is like watching all like millions of people write emails for however many years, and then it can now like have predictive text where it's like trying to fill in your sentence for you. And so that's like, that all comes from harvesting our actual data, like the data that we intentionally put in, not even just like watching our behaviors. So that's kind of like how these models are built. And then like when we put more questions into them, that helps them understand how humans like interact with it, and it further develops it. So everything that humans are doing, AI is trying to like suck in to try to mimic us and engage with us in a way that feels more human. That data, it's like, it depends on the tool. I mean, I think, and I'm hopeful that we'll see more privacy forward AI tools because they're designed to be so personal, right? Like, so you would imagine that if you were designing something that was meant to like have a really personal conversation with somebody, you would want it to be like super consentful, right? I would be like, if this person thinks I'm a friend, I want to interact like a friend. Like, hey, can I tell anybody that? do you want me to keep that a secret?
Right.
Like be a friend if you're a friend. But it's not doing that. It's generally like just kind of taking stuff in and trying to build more with it. When we delete stuff from AI, let's see, usually it's going to delete it from our feeds in the same way that if you delete like, if you are signed into like Google and you do a Google search and you delete the history on your browser, it might mean that if somebody sat down at your browser, they wouldn't see what you just looked at, but Google still has a record of what you searched for.
Oh, okay.
So like there's the what I see and what I'm doing from my experience, and there's the what the company's still doing. There, I do want to shout out to a privacy forward piece of AI that's made by Proton. Proton makes privacy forward tools, like they make an end-to-end encrypted email tool, like web video meeting, password manager, and they also have this privacy forward AI tool called Lumo. And that tool commits to not inputting anything that we put into it back into the system. It's all end-to-end encrypted, so there's no way for other people to see, like either during the interaction or after, what we've said with it, or it doesn't record like what it says back to us. It only like, you can keep that history for yourself for a bit, but like it's not getting kept by the company and reused. So I do think that that's one of our best options right now, if like, especially if we want to have personal interactions. Some of the risks are the company-based stuff, and then like we're seeing some risks too. Like, it's really valuable to try to get access to that. Like, if I am going to try and if I want to make bots online that mimic people in order to like defraud them or something, it would be really helpful for me to go and get like the database of ways that people have interacted with a chat, like an AI chatbot or something right now, so that I could then make my fake person, that's my fake defrauding person, more like a person.
Yeah.
So the AI companies are also really susceptible to those kinds of attacks, or at least they're high targets.